Hi, everyone. Thank you for watching. By law, I have to tell you that this is for entertainment purposes only. All videos are property of Psychic Liz Cross, LLC. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. This is Mr. Shakespeare again with you on 29th of October, 2025, joined as usual by psychic medium and remote viewer Liz Cross. How are we doing today, Liz?
Building up to Halloween. How are you?
Okay, trying to avoid that like the plague.
I know you don't like it.
But I know the real meaning of it, that's why.
Oh, it's not just like trick or
Uh,
treats and buckets of candy. Okay.
that's how they get you to buy into it, you know. You want to get some sweets, go and buy some. Don't go begging. Sorry.
You have a totally different viewpoint in the UK than over here in
Oh
the
no,
US.
no, like, no, no, don't get me wrong. Lots of people do it over here. I know that. I get it, but you know, lots of people do lots of things. Anywho, right. Apparently we've got to do a video on real estate. Now, there's something we need to understand about real estate and what drives the market. And so we need to get our friend him, this
Oh,
man.
really?
Yes,
Jerome Powell?
I'm afraid so.
Okay.
All right, but before we ask Jerome Powell anything, let's just get some first principles out of the way. Real estate is governed by the amount of credit and debt in the market. In other words, when you go, how money is manufactured. Money is manufactured mainly in the private sector, and the biggest cause creation of money and therefore debt is the housing market. Okay. When you go, a lot of people think or thought or still think that banks lend you the money that they have on deposit. No, they do not. They are not allowed to do that, and they haven't been allowed for a long time. What they do is when you agree to take a loan out, that is then an asset on their books, even though it's a liability to you. So not only do they create the debt, but they create the money at the same time. So it's actually a good thing for the economy. Okay. And what governs how much money is allowed to is going to be created is interest rates. People will borrow a lot more at 0 or 1% than they would at 10 or 20 or 30% interest rate because the affordability is off the scale. Yeah. So the reason why we need to speak to Jerome Powell first is what are his plans for interest rate for the Fed, the Fed funds rate. I know Trump wants him to drop the rates, of course, because Trump built his empire on borrowing money. So he understands that. All right. So we need Jerome Powell, please.
Okay, I have him here
Right. There's a meeting coming up soon, I believe. Yeah.
today.
Is it? Okay. Are we dropping rates?
Yes,
Quarter, 25 basis points, higher or lower?
25 basis points. Yes, 25.
Okay, so that's a 1/4%. Right. Let's get him out a year, 1 year.
Okay.
What is the current Fed's fund rate, sorry, Fed funds rate compared to the end of October 2025? So we're now out at the end of October 2026. Is the Fed's funds rate higher or lower than it is on the 29th of October 2025?
I'm getting it's 3.5%.
So that's lower, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So I'm not sure what it is at the moment. Let me look it up.
It's still pretty high.
Is it? Let's have a look. Okay, so the current target range, they have a range in America, as you guys already know in America. So it's 4 to 4.25. So if they drop it by a quarter, which is 25 basis points, that'll be in the region of 3.75 to 4. Okay. Now, if it
Mm-hmm.
goes down to 3.5 within a year, that means interest rates generally, do they go above the current, ask Jerome Powell, do they go above the current Fed, the range any time in the next 12 months?
No,
Or
it's only
stay
going
flat
down.
to down? Do they go flat and down?
Flat to down. Yeah, but it's not going up.
Good. Okay, right. Now we've got that information. So one of the reasons why that would be happening, obviously, is you've got midterm elections next year in November. Americans have got to feel better off. They have to have more money in their pockets. Trump will get absolutely decimated at the midterms if Americans can't afford to buy gas, can't afford to do this, and their housing prices are not doing anything. So let's look at something else. Okay, let's look at the M2 money supply.
Mm.
Right, can you probe the St. Louis Fed, please, Liz?
Yeah.
St. Louis branch of the Federal Reserve, which is where you get all the data from. Okay,
Okay.
all right. Let's go out 1 year from today.
Okay.
And what percentage, higher or lower than the current M2 money supply, is it in 1 year's time? Higher or lower to begin with is the first question. And then what percentage higher or percentage lower is it?
Okay. So the question is the percentage, do we have a
Is the money
benchmark?
supply, yeah, in 1 year's time, is the M2 measured money supply, M2 as they measure it, which is on your screen now, is it higher
Mhm.
or lower? So it's in the billions of dollars. At the moment, it's about 22 billion, 22,000 billion dollars, which is about 20 trillion, isn't it, or something? So is it higher or lower in a year's time?
Much higher.
Right. So there's been money printing, money creation. It's not really money printing, it's money creation, which means that Americans are borrowing money again. And what's the
Mm.
number one thing that Americans borrow money on? For?
Housing.
There you go. I think I've
Ah.
just answered your real estate questions.
There you go. Because I was getting, is there going to be, there's definitely a slowdown. Is there going to be a crash? No. But then you've got the other problem, which is the affordability factor. So
Right, but if the
mortgages,
yeah, but if the rates are coming down, then people can borrow more, you know what I mean? Or they can, you've got to be able to afford to repay a mortgage. Nobody takes on mortgages if the interest rate was 12 or 15 or 20%, nobody would. That would crash the housing market overnight. Yeah. So to
mm-hmm.
goose the housing market, one way of calling it. You've got to allow more money creation, the manufacture of money. We manufacture of money, we in the West, or pretty much everywhere actually, manufacture. Private commercial banks are doing most of this. Okay, and they do it via loans. So they issue the credit to you, which is then sorry, they issue the liability to you, who you have the money in your account, you can then go and spend it, and it becomes an asset on their account. It's in their interest to do that. But they also, this is how they control everything because they raise and lower the interest rates, which depends, that's the boom and bust that they put into the cycle. That's why if they want to, grab everybody's property and do all those things, they raise the rates, which is why fixed rates, if you can get them. When I lived in America, I remember I discovered they did not, they did a 30-year fix, which is an amazing thing. You can't get that anywhere else in the world. No one does that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, a 30-year fixed rate interest. Yeah, because your mortgages over in the UK, they fluctuate, don't they?
Well, no, you can get a 2 year fixed or a three. You used to be able to get five, but now I think you can only get two or maybe three. It's rubbish, you know.
Yeah.
Families, they're the point is if you had a 30-year fixed, you know what your payments are on day one and then on year 30, they're the same. They don't change. It doesn't matter what the interest rates do, and that provides stability. That's one of the great things in America. You just don't get it anywhere else.
Mm.
No, you have long-term fixed 10, 15, 20-year, 30-year fixed mortgages. Yes, they're higher than, maybe the variable rate, but you know what you're paying. The amount of people, if you've ever if you've ever watched the film The Big Short or ever lived through housing bust, I remember in England when they jacked the interest rates up to 17%. People were just going to the wall. They couldn't. They lost their properties, lost everything. They couldn't
Mm.
afford the payments. But the point, okay, so what we've learned from this is Powell will be dropping rates. They'll be dropping around to the 3.5% range. So that could be 3.25 to 3.75 as a range. Okay, there's a lot more money supply in the market, which means that there's a lot more people borrowing money and they're not doing it just to buy, two new toasters and things like that. It's got to be most of it into housing now. Let's find out if we can eke that out. Let's, let's grab the St. Louis Fed again.
Okay.
How much of the extra money that has been created during the last year, bear in mind we're now out at the end of October next year, how much
Hmm.
of that has gone on housing? What percentage of the extra money that's been created is housing related? What percentage?
30%.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought it'd be more, but okay. What's the rest of it for then?
What's the rest of it for? It feels to me what I'm getting, it's more like company debt.
Oh, okay. Companies are borrowing. Okay. All right. All right, all right, but company debt is still private debt. Okay, so companies are borrowing money to expand or something like that. Yeah, that's what I mean. But the
Mm.
single biggest private thing is mortgages. It must be. It's housing. Okay. Well, that means the economy is doing well. If in America, if companies are borrowing money, that means they're going to expand. And if 30% of the extra money, and we're talking a lot of money here, is going into the housing market, that's pushing the housing market upwards, surely. Right, let's get some checks and balances done on that. Right. Realtor.com, the number one site trusted by professionals or professionals trust, whatever. All right. Let's grab them.
Okay.
All right, let's put them out here. 1 year.
Okay. So October 29th, 2026, 20. Okay. What would you like to know?
How's the how's for the US? How has the housing market done for the past year
How has the housing market done for the past year in the US?
generally?
Well, I mean, this is coming back telling me great,
Okay.
but obviously it's not great right now.
No, but then the rates haven't been lowered. People, people are worried. People are nervous. People are scared. Will Powell reduce the rates? Will rates come down over time? These are all things. I mean, we're looking into the future here with these probes, you know?
So when they print the money, does it go to the banks?
They don't actually print the money anymore. Okay, about 3% of the money is actually printed, and that's printed by the Treasury. Money is loaned, borrowed into creation. Yeah. You
Mm.
go into your bank, Liz, right? You go into your local bank and go, I want a mortgage to buy that house. How much, madam? Right, 500,000. Okay, so you do all the paperwork and everything. When you sign the paperwork, when you sign the loan documentation, that loan, that money, that 500,000 is put into your account as such, into an escrow account for you. And at the same time, it's also added to the bank as an asset. So not
Mm.
only have you create the not only has the bank created the asset, as well as the liability. So that's how money comes in. And now we've got another 500 grand sloshing around in the system. Banks do
Oh.
not lend depositors money. People have to understand that. They do not, do not, do not. They're not
Mm.
allowed to. Think about it, right? Let's say that Bank A had £20,000 in total deposits from 10 people, all putting £2,000 in. $2,000. Let's talk dollars, right? Great. Okay, but next week, Bob goes into the branch and Mary going to the branch and said, we'd like our $2,000 back, please. I'm sorry, sir, we can't. We've lent it out. You'd be livid. This stuff is called demand deposit. It means it's on demand. It means it should be there. Yeah?
Mm.
They do not lend that money out. In fact, it costs them money because they have to pay you interest on it. Now, money goes in and out of checking accounts all the time. We know that, right? But when it comes to money creation or the manufacture of money, you have to understand how it works. Banks are legally allowed to do something that if you and I did it, we go to prison for. They're legally allowed to create money out of thin air. Now, the government can do that as well, but they do it via the central bank. Okay? But it's the private market that creates the private market that creates most of the money, the large percentage of the money. It's the private. And if the private market will not take on debt, then there are problems. That's why the housing market goes down. And what runs the whole of the private market? Confidence, trust.
Mm.
You know, we've had some questions that you've sent over to me from your patron users, you know, and a lot of them are, you know, will this happen and will that happen? And, you know, all these things. These are all essentially what I'd call confidence questions, you know? At the end of the day, if the money supply, the M2 money supply has risen over the next year and the interest rates are coming down over the next year, that to me signals confidence in the market. Now, does that mean that every house in every street, in every neighborhood, in every town, state, county is gonna do well? No, of course it's not. There are some houses that are massively overpriced, and they will have to correct down. We know that, you know. But at the end of the day, a thriving market is based on buyers and sellers all being happy, all getting something out of it, you know. And there's nothing worse than a depressed housing market, all right? And there's one thing that Trump knows about is real estate. He knows this has to happen. Otherwise, he and his party and everything have got no chance at the midterms. So I think money creation is coming, which means that's, yes, it's inflationary because there's more of it sloshing around. However, this is what powers the world in our fiat-based system, you know?
Mm. Mm. I have a question.
Okay.
I want to know this. Because the younger generations are not going to be able to buy houses, okay? Of course, I'm not saying everybody, but on a large scale, house prices are going to be too expensive. There just isn't going to be the jobs that there once was around for young people to work. The economy is so bad, as we know, going out in the future. I mean, we've done a million probes on that. What does that do to the housing market when the people cannot really buy anymore? Like, so let's channel the founding fathers. What happens in the future when the population, the younger population, the older ones are, retaining their houses, and the younger population are not able to buy?
They'll
See,
rent.
this is what I'm getting. I'm getting what they're coming back with. The housing market will still move, but it's going to be the corporations that are buying the houses, not family.
Yeah, if we carry on with our current model,
Mm-hmm.
then house prices will only ever rise in price. And they have to,
Okay.
because there'll have to be more money. That M2 money supply will rise and rise, and a lot of it will go into real estate. So that means that over the long term, over any term, if you like, if we carry on with the same model, then will it get the same outcome, which is higher real estate prices across the board?
It just becomes a renter's.
Okay, so, I can tell you in Germany, there's no obsession with owning a lot of property. They're quite happy to rent. Most people do rent, even though they drive, brand new Mercedes or whatever and have all sorts of other things. Then there's not the obsession with owning your own house that there is in, say, England or America.
But why should we give in to that? That's my thing. I know in Europe it's like that, and it's just
Well,
that's where
Liz, you can't have
everybody
it
is.
both ways. You cannot have it both ways. Either you have your house prices rise with money creation
Mm.
or not. Are you willing to take a 60, 70, 80% drop on the value of your house?
No.
Right. And nor is anybody else. That's the point. House
Mm.
prices are directly relational to money manufacturing, money creation. So if the house price that you want is going to rise, yeah, then there has to be more money to feed that. We live in a fiat-based system.
Okay, but then what happens is there it becomes more corporate housing. So the
Well,
corporations.
unfortunately, that's the capitalist way, isn't it? So if
Mm.
as the prices go higher, there'll be fewer and fewer people who can actually afford them, and corporations just come over and take them over, and they're still there. They still rent them out. They're still
Okay,
having to pay for it. If your $500,000 house suddenly becomes worth, say, I don't know, in a few years' time, $1 million, all right? And then the pool of buyers that can afford to pay 1 million is less than that can afford to pay for 500,000. So maybe corporations come in and buy them. Well, they're a liability on their books unless they turn them into an asset. How do they turn them into an asset? They rent them out. So you'll end up being a renter. The children or the young people that we're talking about will just end up renting.
okay, so let's go out to 2050.
Okay.
So in 2050, what percentage of the population here in the USA as a whole will be renting? So I'm getting, it's a big number.
Okay.
Especially so, and I'm talking about sort of the under 40s. So under the age of 40, what percentage of the population will be renting? 70%.
Okay. And what percentage is it today?
What percentage is it today? It's about 25.
Okay. Well, there you go. Houses become more expensive over time. Wages don't keep up with it as normal. Less people can afford. Corporations buy, they rent them out.
Yeah.
If you look at the seriously wealthy, all their properties are in trust and they pass them down from generation to generation. They never get sold.
Hmm.
Mhm. So there are people of the boomer generations. That, by the way, is anybody born 64, between 1964 going backwards to, I think, 48, something like that, who own most of the properties.
Hmm.
Well, they won't last forever, and it's their offspring that will inherit those properties. The trick is to keep them, isn't it? You know? Now, if you don't have a boomer parent that's got a property and you don't have anything at the moment and your parents aren't wealthy to have that kind of thing and you can't get on the housing ladder, then you will end up, at the end of the day, you're going to be renting. Okay, is that the end of the world? You know, I don't know.
I think it seriously depletes the opportunity to build wealth
Why?
because rents increase. I
Yeah, I
mean,
know,
if
but
you could,
also maintenance costs, insurance costs, roof, everything costs. If you own a house, right? Somebody
hmm,
taught me this years ago. Houses that don't produce any income are liabilities. Your own house is a liability, okay? Because you have to pay all the costs towards it. You don't get anything back for it. You only might get something back if you get capital appreciation when it goes. And the biggest absorber of money is real estate.
wow.
So, overall, to answer all the questions, essentially, next year, I think, will be quite good. I'm not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice, but if the interest rates are going down, the M2 money supply has gone a lot higher, okay, and we know Trump needs to get, Republicans need to hold the House and the Senate, otherwise Trump's a lame duck president for the last 2 years. There will be money creation. There will be manufacturing of money, which means that a lot of it, 30%, and that's still a lot of money, going into the housing market. Also, if corporations are borrowing, they're borrowing because they want to expand. They're not borrowing because they're contracting.
Hmm.
Make sense?
Okay.
Well, I think so. Right,
Did you?
let's do a couple of other qualifiers. Case-Shiller. Right, the S&P Case-Shiller index. This is the monthly home pricing index. They do it every month, right? So, I'd like you to grab the Case-Shiller index, please, Liz.
The Case-Shiller Index?
Yeah, these were two professors years ago that came up with this, and I think it's now part of S&P or something. I don't actually know, but they do the Case-Shiller US National Home Price NSA Index. Okay, and every month, August it was. They're always in arrears, obviously. Yeah,
Okay.
but let's get them out till the end of October next year.
So October 29th, October 29th, 2026, 2026, 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Okay.
All right. So what does their index show over the last 12 months compared to the end of October 2025?
What is the index show over the last 12 months compared to October 2025
As a national index, yeah.
as a national index? What does it show? I'm getting the number five.
Okay. Right. Okay, what does that mean exactly? Okay, how much has it gone up or how much has it gone down compared to a year ago?
How much has it gone up or down compared to, it's still gone up. How much has it gone up? 5%, 4%, 3, 2.5.
Okay. And that's for the whole year, yeah?
Is that for the whole year? Roughly.
Okay. All right. Well, there's no housing market crash then, is there?
Oh, okay.
I mean, 2.5 isn't brilliant, but okay. Maybe it
What
takes
what
longer.
exactly are they measuring here?
They're measuring the national, so they have an index of all of the properties per state, and they measure the prices sort of, month on month, and then they group the whole thing together, and it becomes their index. It's one of the best ways of looking at the national average in the US. This does not account for any individual state, county, town, whatever. Okay, but it means that for the national index to go up, yeah, that's quite a lot of money that's flowed in. Yeah. I mean, what is the value of the US residential real estate? It's trillions, I would think.
Are you okay?
I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm what? Who can you ask?
It's what I'm getting. It's almost immeasurable.
Right. So 2.5% of immeasurable's a lot, isn't it?
Mm.
2.5% on one house is nothing. 2.5% on a whole you know, on the value of the whole of the US real estate market is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2.5 on the whole real estate. So they're saying that the real estate market has gone up by 2.5%.
Yes. Well, the index has gone up, but that means that the index is, that would be a conservative number because these big indexes, when you see these big national indexes, they move relatively slowly because you're not looking at one town, one street, one city. You're looking at the whole of the US.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole of the US generally is feeling positive, in my opinion, and the prices have gone up. And the index price has gone up 2.5%. That's a lot.
Okay.
And again, we don't have to go into the minutiae of when it goes in and out every month, which town. It doesn't matter. Generally, these signs are up. That tells me Americans are buying more houses, taking on more debt. Why are they doing that? They must feel confident. They wouldn't do it
Mm.
otherwise.
So we keep getting that. I mean, definitely from this today, we keep finding this correlation, like, because some people think that the bull run is over, and I think this is the last bit of it. We're at the tail end of it. We're getting to the end. I mean, 8 months,
I don't think so.
possibly to
I don't
the
think
end
so.
of, no,
And I'll tell you
but
why I don't think so. For
why?
the same reason that the house prices are going up. You said 30%, a lot of the money is going into corporate, fine, and 30% of that extra money is going into housing, right? But some of that money is going to the stock market, into gold, into cryptos, into everything. All of these things have to go up in unison, not necessarily by the same amount. So, what is the best way to make Americans feel generally? I know this is a massive generalization, but I do have some insight. I did live there for 5 years, you know? They are bothered about, real estate prices. They're certainly bothered about gas prices, food prices. How much money can I spend? What can I have? I don't want to be trapped down. I want to do this. I want to do that. Can I put a new bathroom in? Can I do this? Can I do that? It all takes money. They've got to have more money to slosh around.
Hmm.
And they will do what they need to do to make sure that that happens over the next 12 months. November starts the campaigning. In America, it takes you apparently one. I mean, this is it's just a joke. It takes a few weeks in England, but they do 1 year campaigning. Campaigning officially starts next month in a week or two's time. Next month, isn't it? Yeah, another week. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
now see all the advertising and the marketing and vote for me and do this. You know, it's a whole year. So they've got a whole year to sort this out. And I think the indications are that by the end of it, money is happy again. I mean, we're not going to go back to 0% finance. Let's just ask Powell a minute.
Okay.
Let's put him out 5 years. No, no, let's not do that. Let's put him out 2 years. Sorry, 2 years.
2 years. Okay.
All right. Is he still Fed chairman?
No. 2 years. Sorry, I need to go back to 2 years. Are you still just about? He's only staying to spite Trump.
Okay, well, that's fine. What's the Fed fund rate now, 2 years out?
What's the Fed fund rate now, 2 years out? Is it higher, or lower than 3.5? It's holding at 3.5.
Okay. But did it ever go back to near zero?
Did it ever go back to near zero? No.
No. Okay.
Mm-mm.
All right. So those happy days are over. You can borrow at near 0%.
Yeah.
Those cause the biggest. I mean, go and watch the film Big Short, and find out what happens when everybody can borrow at 0%. You had,
Okay, well, I think this answers our
I
question.
think
So
it does. Yeah.
we're
So
not headed for a crash. We are
I
at a
don't,
slowdown point at the moment. I
people
think
are
people,
worried
and
at the moment.
They are. And I think people also anticipated um, that the economy would have recovered faster than what it is at the moment.
Yes. Okay. Well, you know, if America were to rein in its head a bit and stop spending all money. I mean, it's just given 40 billion to Argentina, gives money to Ukraine, it's giving money to Japan. I mean, why doesn't it just spend the money at home? Why is it giving all this money out all over the place, I'm sure Americans would, this is the problem with what's going on with the Make America Great Again, it Trump's on a world tour giving money to everybody. It's like, really? Why?
Hmm. Okay. All
We love
right. Well, thank
America.
you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'll stop this one here.